Okay guys, welcome back to the channel. Just recovered from all the Halloween shenanigans. Hope you enjoyed those videos, but it's time to get back on to the topic of the channel, which is more audiophile stuff. Although I will have a lot more on those Acora speakers that impressed everybody at 3MA for the spectacular Audio Fest. But I wanted to continue my series of the biggest mistakes audiophiles make, because hopefully by the end of this series, you can be, I guess, immune or at least less susceptible to all the mistakes I've made in the past. So what I'm kind of reiterating in these series is things that I've made in the past. So I'm not saying I'm better than you or anything. I'm just sharing some of my wisdom and experience and things that I did wrong that I think if I had to do it all over again, these are the biggest takeaways and lessons learned. And so today I'm giving you a different backdrop than I normally do. This is my family room with my Wisdom Audio Adrenaline speakers. And as you can probably tell, the room is much more lively, my voice has more reverb, and I don't use it for critical listening. Certainly rooms like this can be fun to listen to, and that extra reverb can be attractive on certain recordings and add flavor. And then certain speakers even kind of like a room like this, and certain taste like a room like this. For me, it's not to my taste, but the reason I'm kind of showcasing this today is it parlays into my next step on talking about the biggest mistakes audiophiles make in terms of the room. So much priority, and it really comes down to the main thing is, where are your priorities? So many mistakes I've made in the past is prioritizing gear over things like room, DSP, proper setup. And really, we're all susceptible to that. These are toys. We're excited to open the box. They're just like, we're just like kids. We want to have things to open up and tangible things that gear provides versus more nebulous things like the room and setup that actually take some work, are a little less defined and easy to do, take a little more expertise. But in the long run, you're much better off prioritizing the room and setup and picking gear for that room and room treatments and DSP over the gear. Certainly gear can make a big difference, and in the proper room, that's where you're going to be able to reveal the value that you bought. So many times I hear great speakers, we just had this in several rooms, mega dollar speakers, and everybody says these are kind of disappointing. Well, what's the excuse? Oh, it's not set up right, or the room's not good. Well, then get the room and the setup right first before you buy that kind of gear, because that kind of gear is a waste in a poor room with poor setup. Now, how do you short circuit your brain to not want the gear? And I'll tell you some things that I got susceptible to, and maybe you are as well, that if you're just cognizant of it, then you can, kind of quell those neurosis and urges to buy gear and focus on other things. So the number one thing is, especially when you're on a budget, when I was on a tight budget, anytime I had a little extra money, I would buy something so I could just say I'm in the hobby, doing something new. And you get on this tweak phase where, because tweaks are usually much less than obviously mega dollar gear. So if you're on a tight budget, a lot of people fall susceptible. Oh, I'm going to buy this fuse or this footer or this thing because I can afford it now. I got a bonus. I got a little more budget that I can spend, but I can't buy new speakers. I'll buy these tweaks. And I'm not saying these tweaks don't make a difference and don't have some value. I have a video series on tweaks and what level groups I put them in terms of which ones make the biggest difference. And it's fun to do that. And if that's what you want to get out the hobby, just trying that stuff and fun, I'm not here to tell you how to audiophile. If that's what you want to do, it's fine. But if I had to do it over again, because I've got tons of those tweaks, if you've seen in those videos, I've had power cords since they were first invented, audiophile power cords in the 1990s, ones that came with 100-page instruction manuals. Okay, I've had all the little footers from the tiptoes to on up, created my own, started this channel developing my own and mimicking the Townsend seismic bars. So I understand the tweakiness of the hobby, the urges to do that. But if I had to do it all over again, I would have prioritized room treatments and learning proper setup, training my ears to use test tones and music and the right test tracks, that's going to be a totally different video in this series on which test tracks, because that's another big mistake audiophiles make. But I'm going to save that for another video. But all of these other things should have just as much, if not more, priority to you than gear, and especially tweaks. So when you do have that extra money, you do want to get in the game, you do read something that makes you neurotic online. Oh, somebody had good experience with XYZ fuse or XYZ cable or whatnot. Kind of temper your enthusiasm and realize these people, even if it's real to them, it may not be real to you. It may not be real to your system. It may not work in your room. Just because somebody says it on the forum doesn't mean it's even true to them that they could prove it in an objective test. But even if they could, there isn't always 100% translation. So resist the urge to get neurotic and buy tweaks and even gear before you get your room and your ears trained to be able to set up your speakers and your gear properly. And that includes mating gear properly. Sometimes you can get a lot of problems come from people mating great gear on their own in a silo, and in a vacuum, great gear, but combined, they don't work well together. Passive preamp with a poor input impedance amp. Certain speakers not being driven by the right kind of amplifier to deliver the power or swing voltage properly. These are the things that you should invest your time in, and those are the things you want to kind of look for on the forums versus just the forum post on gear and tweaks that people say make a difference. Invest some time. There's lots of sites online that teach you about room acoustics, room treatments. I've got 9 bass traps in that other room. I just had Dave and Doug out to my house, and maybe I'll do a Zoom interview. I don't like to put people on the spot and ask them what they heard and whatnot, but all of them said the system is extremely well dialed in, and there's not a lot of money out there. So what I'm showing is that you can, whatever your gear is, you can have mega dollar gear and it can easily be sabotaged by room or setup. But on the reverse side, you can have modest gear that outperforms expensive gear if you get your room and set up properly. That was proven without a shadow of a doubt this weekend, and anybody that comes by, that you can do that. And quite honestly, we can show you mega dollar gear that is easily sabotaged by not having those two things in order. So hopefully this gives you just a little bit. I'm sure a lot of you have thought about this, but tempering your enthusiasm to buy gear, and that's what I had to learn over the years, is the most important thing to kind of quell and learn, invest the time in room acoustics and proper setup of your speakers. I will link a book that I've used, and you've seen it in the back of my videos in the past, that I used to help me. It came with a test CD and a book that helps you understand. It's like recording skills for audio professionals. Definitely is worth your time and will save you a lot of headaches in the long run. All right, guys, hopefully you enjoyed. If so, sign up, subscribe, and I'll see you back here soon.